Hey, y'all. Hey, it's JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together, where our goal is to help you walk in abundance and leave a legacy. It's Wealth Building Wednesday, where we answer your money questions with style and grace. To ask your question, go to buildingwealthtogether.com and click Ask JJ or leave a voicemail at 1-833-4-ASK-JJC. Today, if you have a business question you want to ask about your business, what I'll do is, in exchange for you letting me coach you live, you will get to, bare your soul in front of a million of your favorite Facebook stranger friends. You'll be able to give us a link or something to take people to your page. So if you want to do that, the address to come join me on stage is in the show notes. I'm sorry, y'all. It's in the description if you're on Facebook or YouTube, any of those. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and drop it in the comments just in case anybody didn't get it. Now, if you are subscribed to my list, you will also have seen this because it will have gone out to you in a mailing list. Either you're in my Alexandria, Virginia investment meetup group, you're in my Louisiana investment or business building meetup group, or my overall Building Wealth Together mailing list, you would have gotten this link today. Ooh, and I just realized I probably accidentally sent it to the church folks. Sorry if you're somebody who signed up for my mailing list for the gospel tailgates and you got a notice about free money questions. Well, sorry. Okay, so what we're going to do today, I am going to go take a look. Oh, I forgot. I'm still telling you how to ask a question. So you can come on stage with it. You can come on stage and get yourself on my video live right now. You can do that by clicking the link. You have to give StreamYard some permissions, and away you go. All right. And if you would like to, you can type it in the comments, or if you're on phone, you can dial *61. Or if you just want to be anonymous, you can go to askjjc.com. And I'm going to just make sure I'm typing it in now, because I was really surprised. These last couple of months, we haven't had a lot of questions. And I went into about a month or two ago, I went into the system and realized that it was supposed to be an anonymous form, right? But it was requiring you to provide your email, and it was requiring you to provide your name, and it was requiring you to provide a phone number. And I was like, oh, I don't know what I did. That was probably one of those things that I did before I realized that you should stop doing things when you're tired. Okay. So there's a form, and people couldn't really use the form for what I wanted them to use it for, because it was supposed to be anonymous. So it is anonymous now, and you can go out to askjjc.com, askjjc.com, and you can ask some questions. Okay, so let's see what we're going to talk about today. Well, I only had 3 questions in the queue, and as I look at them, 2 of them are not really appropriate for this kind of coaching. So I'm going to do 2 things. One, I'm going to explain what this coaching is and why it is, okay? Because I think it's important to understand where somebody's coming from. But the other one is is about the new college rules that are coming out, the college forgiveness, and I'm going to talk in general terms about it, because if I give you any specifics, the dust is still settling, and I don't want to give you specifics and then next week those specifics aren't right, because what the dust is still settling, and how that's going to play out remains to be seen. Okay. Well, I guess that answers the question. Okay, let me just go ahead and let me start with the background first. Okay, so what am I doing here? These Thursday night classes really are an opportunity for me to create a pathway for people that I needed when I was $800 something thousand in debt. As we all grow in our businesses and we grow in our influence, and I have the podcast now, and I'm getting people who want to pay to be sponsored, to sponsor the podcast, and I'm getting, as I move up, I'm going to have to naturally put a higher value on my time in order to ensure that I have a good balance between helping people and serving people, really, and being a blessing to my family. And so as you grow up in business, you have to make those changes. When people tell me they're so exhausted, that's the first thing I tell them to do. You need to raise your prices until things stabilize. But I remember what it was like to be $800,000 in debt. And for the first, I don't know, maybe about $200,000 of that, I wasn't paying anybody to help me. I just didn't have it to pay. I really just didn't have it to pay. Now, I probably started paying a little earlier than I should have started paying for business advice and things like that. I probably should have finished selling off the last of those properties before I started digging into business. But when I was 800 some $1,000 in debt, and my food for me and my son was basically free samples at Sam's Club, I wasn't paying somebody 49.99, 199. I've got some clients that are paying about $1,000 a month. I got one client that's looking at even more than that because they need a extra level of discretion with their affairs, right? But me 13 years ago, I wouldn't have been that person, and I would have missed out. And so for me, it's very important to me that I create a pathway where people can get their questions answered. And so that's really important to me. And so I will always have some level of free, no matter how big I grow, no matter what I move on to, no matter what direction all these projects take me, no matter how high I get in my community service and my leadership and all that stuff, no matter all of that, as long as I'm ethically allowed to, I will always have a free way for you to come ask me questions. And so I remember when I was chief of protocol at Air Force Global Strike. So I was the four-star generals, effectively the four-star generals party planner, but being protocol is really more than a party planner, because what you're really doing is you're facilitating very, very high level communication and very high level meetings and very high level social engagements that translate into a lot of official business. Okay, so some people joke about being a party planner. That is an important skill set, but you're really doing much more than that. You're facilitating some of the most important discussions, some of the most important online or offline discussions that happen behind the scenes amongst these leaders and amongst the people in Congress and all that other stuff. It's a fascinating, fascinating job. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Well, I won't say thoroughly at the end. I didn't enjoy it after that car accident, but that was probably because I shouldn't have been in it after that car accident. But when I was in that job, I couldn't have a business. Okay, I couldn't serve people financially. I couldn't serve them in John Maxwell content. I couldn't serve them in any of that business capacity because of the nature of the job I was in. I was allowed to keep the Kingstown Family Life Center, which was my church. And through my church, we had community classes in finance, in business building, but all of those things were free. Okay, and that was because of the job. But because they were free and because I couldn't take you as a client, I wasn't able to actually really dig into your finances the way that I would have liked to. And so I did a lot of other things. We had community classes. I did walk in wealth. Like, you come walk with me on Saturday mornings. You can ask me any question you want, right? I will always have some kind of pathway. And so I think it's really important for us to do that. But I also think it's really important for us to value our time. And that leads into one of the discussion things that I wanted to talk about today before I started answering questions, which was the four currencies. And we were at the Power Networking Conference, and I have taught something similar to this in the past, because y'all know I'm always talking about how we spend our time, our talent, and our treasure. And then when we go into the spirit of opulence, we also talk about how we have different forms of abundance. So abundance isn't just money in the bank. There's a lot that goes into abundance. We can have abundant relationships. We can have abundant health. We can have abundant intellect. We can have abundant spirituality. We can have abundant physical finances. Okay. So there's all those different forms of abundance. And when we were at the Power Networking Conference, I loved the way that Dr. Fraser said it, that you have four currencies, and these are things that can be exchanged of value. One of those is time. One of those is time. When you give up your time, you are exchanging your valuable time. You're exchanging something that you can't ever get back. In fact, I believe the most valuable commodity that you have is your time. And so where you choose to spend your time needs to be worthy of the fact that you are spending your time. Okay? Because you can't get that time back. The 5 minutes that you spend with me, I want it to be valuable for you. And I noticed I was going through some of my old, I was asked to submit a sample for this high level program I was applying for. I was asked to submit a work sample of my YouTube and my other stuff. And I realized that in these calls, I really do waste a lot of the beginning of the call because I'm kind of flubbing over my words and I'm getting myself settled. I'm like, okay, I need to do better. I need to be more respectful of other people's time, and I got to be more respectful of my time. Okay. But time is a currency. My spending time with you, someone like Dr. Fraser spending time to mentor me. That's a form of currency. Another one, of course, that we're familiar with is money. Money itself, we're familiar with that. Money is really a construct. It's not good or evil. It's just is, right? And so we could make anything into money. When I was overseas, when I was in the desert, they had these things. They had these little things called pogs. I don't know if anybody remember. They were like little pieces of paper, and they had printouts of money value on them. And so you would spend them like as if they were money. And we had this social contract or this social agreement that these little pogs would be money. They would be the monetarily equivalent. But in reality, they had no value except the value that we in the desert assigned to them. If you held one in front of me now, I wouldn't give you any cash money for it. I don't want to be reminded of that time, quite frankly. And so it's agreed upon. We agree that a dollar is worth something. And if the government prints too much money, that the world agreement of what the dollar is worth might go down. We agree that gold and gemstones and diamonds and all that stuff is worth something. And if something were to change in the world balance and how they're mined and the availability, well, that would change the value. But it's a value that's agreed upon, and so is money, so is the cryptocurrency. Any kind of monetary, it's an exchange of something of value. Okay. Another currency is knowledge, and we've talked about this before when we've talked about abundance. You may not have abundant cash in your bank, but do you have abundant intellect? Do you have abundant spirituality that you can impart into somebody else? Do you have the ability to come up with ideas and to help people solve problems? You don't even have to know how to solve all of their problems. If you can help them draw the information out of themselves, my goodness, you can make 6, 7, 8 figures as a coach, right? And so knowledge is a currency. Knowledge is a currency, and relationships is a currency, and we talk about that quite often as well. And so sometimes we see it a lot in the military when someone of high rank will retire and then they will go into a civilian position. They're not going into that civilian position because they're just a hard worker and everybody thinks that they're going to be driven to change that organization or bring innovation to the department. 9 times out of 10, they're being hired on because they got a good Rolodex of people they can call on and get things sold to and get doors opened up for the company. And so relationship is another form of currency. Now, if you enjoyed that little high level overview and you want to dig deeper in it, I want you to shoot me an email or I want you to comment in the chat, dig deeper, and I will reach out to you one-on-one and let you know about the session that I'm putting together. I'm calling it the Faith and Power session. I am basically taking the lessons that I learned from the Power Networking Conference, the Faithpreneur Conference, and the John Maxwell Conference, and I am bundling all those together into a workshop. It's probably going to be about an hour or two. And then what we're going to do is we're going to dig into those lessons and we're going to workshop it and apply it to our lives. The year is half over, just a little over half over, but there's still plenty of time to make something happen for you. There's still plenty of time for you to achieve your goals. There's still plenty of time for you to turn things around. If things maybe have been going the wrong way, or maybe you haven't been doing what you needed to do, or maybe you're like me, you took on too much this year. And people don't like to say that. They don't like to admit that online. They don't like to say that, oh, I took on too much, because we want to think bigly and we want to do bigly and we want to achieve bigly. But you know what? Sometimes I say yes, just a little too much. And I've had to learn how to draw back. And then my being able to draw back is allowing me to complete a lot of things that are beneficial to both my business and family. So maybe you're like me today. You bit off more than you could chew in 22. Hey, wait a second. Can we make that a thing? I bit off more than I can chew in 2022. Well, we gonna fix it, right? That's not a good thing, but it works. It rhymes, but it's not a good thing. But if you did that like I did, this is a time to reset, refresh, and get yourself reoriented so you can do what it is that you want to do what it is that God has called you to do what it is that you said you were going to do. I noticed in myself that I have slipped back into old habits, and I used to not snooze, and I have slipped back into the old habit of hitting snooze on that alarm. I said, "Oh, no, 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 I am losing valuable time." Okay, so sometimes we got to reset. Okay, this is an excellent time to do it, and that workshop that I'm putting together is an excellent time to do that. However, that workshop is not going to be free, and it's because it's not for everybody. I don't want everybody in there. I don't want people in my workshop who are going to come in and say, "Amen, amen, I'm here with you, sister," and not do the work. I want people that are going to do the work. I want people who really want to make a change. I want people who feel like they're really called to take things to the next level and you just don't know how. I want people who feel like they are called to take things to the next level and you've been doing everything you know how to do and somehow it's still not getting you there. That's what this conference and what this mini workshop is going to be for. It's going to help you help push through whatever it is. I don't know if it's limiting beliefs. I don't know if it's something you got going on in the past. I don't know if it's something you're struggling with in the future. I don't know any of those things. But what I do know is that this content helped move me forward and it's going to help you move you forward. It's going to uncover for yourself what it is you need to do to put one step in front of the other. And when you get done with this workshop, you're going to have an action plan. We're calling it the Faith and Power Workshop. You're going to end this workshop with an action plan that's going to take you to the next level as you round out the end of this year. Woo! I'm encouraging my own self today. All right, look, I got one question left. Okay, the first two questions were not applicable at all. I'm checking the free conference call. I don't see any questions. I'm checking Ask JJC. I've got one about the new college rules that are coming out. Okay, so I've got that. If you have a question, now is the time for you to go ahead and drop it in the chat if you're watching in a chattable area, or if you are listening on free conference call, this is the time to dial *61. Because if you don't, when I finish answering this question, we're going to call it a day. Now, I know that normally these calls used to go like 2 hours, right? Because I was answering questions for like 2 hours. But you know what? I haven't seen my husband in a couple days. And while he totally chuckled when I said, "Yeah, I'm going to make this a short class today because I don't have many questions." And he said, every time I say it's going to be short, 20 people jump in and we ask questions all night because I'm going to stay till the last question is answered. You know, that's how I build a business, right? And he's cool with that. But I was like, no, I don't think we got a lot of people going on tonight. I think everybody who wanted to ask a question is probably still at that game. Okay. All right. So if you got a question, drop it in the chat, drop it and Ask JJC, or dial *61. A lot of people are talking about all of this, about this, the student loan forgiveness. And it was like so exciting. People were so excited about this college loan forgiveness, this debt relief plan. Okay. And so what we have to realize is first of all, this is a plan. Okay. It's not a process yet. All right. And so a plan is okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with planning. You got to start somewhere. Right. And so you've got this 3-part plan that they have put together that's going to give American families some breathing room when it comes to dealing with their college loans, especially in light of COVID. Okay. Now, look, I don't know about you, but I steady get things from the IRS saying we're gonna pay. Not from the IRS. I steady get emails, and I steady get all this mail, and I steady get all this stuff that says, "Hey, we're gonna give you money for COVID, and we're gonna give you this, and we're gonna give you that." Well, I don't get it. Maybe I make too much. I don't know, but I don't get it. I don't get the check. So I want everybody to be. I'm not trying to be a downer about this thing, but I want you to be cautioned. I want you to be cautioned because it's really easy to get all excited about this thing. And I'm not saying it's not, if it comes to fruition, it's not going to be a blessing for some people, but let's stop and think about this for a second, okay? How many of you who are watching me are from Louisiana? So I spent the last 4 years in Shreveport and Bossier City. My business, I still have a business in Shreveport. I'm now 2 years in Texas. How many of us live in places where they have programs like Louisiana Tops, where if you score high enough, apparently your college education is supposed to be free? Great program, right? Yay, Louisiana. We don't do high school well. We're number 49th in the nation, but we going to send you to college for free. Yeah, except we're not, because we don't fund the program. And I saw this a lot when I was in the military as a military single mom. I would have commander after commander, wing commander after wing commander, base commander after base commander, have all these programs that were supposedly supposed to help single women in the military, single men in the military, single parents in the military. And you know what? They never funded them. So guess who didn't get any assistance for being a single mom in the military? Okay. And so then you have, oh, well, we have the spouse programs and we have the family support service and we have all this and we have all that. Well, guess what those are for? They're not for you. I'm not saying this whole college thing is not going to be for you, okay? But what I am saying is I want you to look at the track record. Look at the track record of people who are making promises. You look at the track record of people who are making promises, you will find that a lot of people make a lot of promises and they put a lot of programs on the books. But who do you know that actually got the money? And I'm not talking about the loans. I'm talking about who no kidding got their forgiveness. Who no kidding got this. Who no kidding got that. How many of my clients, I need to calm down because I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be mad. But how many of my clients were taught for 10 years in a Title I school and applied for their forgiveness and did not get it? How many people? I want you to stop and think about this, and I want you to ask the real question. You know people who sacrificed. They sacrificed with nursing. They sacrificed with teaching. They sacrificed with law enforcement. They sacrificed in these other areas where they were promised loan forgiveness for their college loans if they served our most needy populations for 10 years. And what happened? They applied for the program. Less than 1% ever got their stuff forgiven. So am I happy for this idea of the college loan thing? Well, sure. I think people need some relief right now. Now y'all look, now y'all know if any of you have been with me a while, I see we have some folks there who are coming in and I just met me. Make sure that if you want to make a comment, make sure you give StreamYard permission to see you so that when I do this, it'll show your picture and all that and it'll be really cool. You can even put your little logo, your picture, highlight your business stuff. I mean, don't pass up a marketing opportunity, all right? Whoever you are, thank you. But look, people are having trouble. Some of you may not have been with me long enough. You remember, oh, what's his name? And he went out there and he said, I'm gonna for his college speech, I'm gonna pay off all the loans. Remember the guy who said he was gonna pay off all the student loans? Robert Smith. Robert Smith. Yeah. Said he was gonna pay off all the student loans in this commencement address. And you know what was the first thing that came to my mind, y'all? Look, I know this is trifling. I know it's petty. But let me tell you, the first thing that came to my mind is, well, I didn't have any college loans. Now, I didn't go to that school. Okay, clearly I'm a woman. I didn't go to that school. But I went to the Air Force Academy. But I remember thinking to myself, if I had gone to that school, I wouldn't have took student loans because of my family nature, I knew not to do that. I knew I didn't want loans. And I knew that even if I had wanted loans, I probably wouldn't have been able to qualify for much. I mean, they give money to everybody to get them trapped in debt bondage, but we're not going to do a college loan grant. Okay. But I remember the first thing that came to my mind is if I'm the student sitting in the audience who worked my butt off to get through college, and now you come along and you're paying off everybody's student loans, unless you're kicking me another 50 grand or whatever it costs to go there, I'm a little salty. I'm a little salty because I did all this work. They took on all these loans, and I used to tutor. I used to tutor and teach Bible study at a particular college, and I know that most of these people get these college loans and they spend it up partying. They don't use it all for school. They use what school is, and then the school gives them money back. And instead of them being wise and not spending that money, they spend it up partying on their nails and on their hair and on their shoes. And here is somebody else working hard. So I got a little petty about that. I'll admit it. I'm not perfect, y'all. I'm awesome, but I'm not perfect. But with this one, I'm not trying to be petty. And I'm not trying to be salty, but I'm just saying can't depend on somebody else to bail us out of stuff. But I do feel like enough people are hurting because the people that were really hurting are the ones who didn't have the economic ability to kind of ride out the storm when it came to COVID. You know, they were the people that had the least amount of control over their life. And the people that this $10,000, if this thing actually does happen, would be a real blessing at $20,000 to people with Pell Grants, with loans that are funded by the government, and then up to 10,000 in debt cancellations for non. Now, what I didn't see is whether or not this is applicable to non-government sanctioned loans. Okay, so I this is where I'm admitting, back in the day, you could get a government loan, but it wasn't always you get like a Parent Plus and stuff, but it wasn't a Pell Grant. I don't know if you need a Pell Grant to get a government subsidized loan now. That's some research area that I need to get on. But documentation doesn't say it's for everybody. Why is that important? Well, when they passed the act back in 2009, 2010 to provide relief from people who had federal housing loans, FHA loans, or you were military with a VA loan and you got caught in this housing cycle. Well, we bought a house conventionally for $405,000. Now, when the big commercial real Y'all, when the bubble burst, that house was only worth $180,000. So I was very excited for this program where I'd be able to go in and apply and have that debt wiped away. Only it didn't apply to me because even though I was military, that program was only for people with federally backed loans. And we had finally come up enough in our financial standing to be able to do it the traditional way, which really does save you thousands of dollars, even up to hundreds of thousands of dollars on a property, 400,000 and longer over the term of the purchase of the property, the 30 years that you're paying for the property. So what we did was the best financial decision, but what we did not work in a time of economic downturn, and the policies that the government established to help people like us didn't apply to us because we weren't using a government program. So that's another complexity with the whole college thing that we need to find out. But what the college plan as it stands right now is they're going to give up to 10 and up to 20 for people. There will be a pause on student loan repayment towards the end of the year. And then one thing that I did like was changing, I think it's like 5%. I think that's what I saw. I think it was like 5%. But again, I don't know that any of this applies to privatize loans, because usually when the government does something like this, when all the dust settles and all the elections have already happened, so now the government really doesn't care anymore if they make good on their promise or not, usually when the dust settles, it's government loans. So we'll see what's government-backed loans. So let's just see what it ends up being. But I'm not going to tell you to get all excited and stop paying down debt. If you can, the only thing you can control is what you have. Your number one wealth building asset is your income. And the number one thing you can control is how much comes in and how much goes out. You say, well, I can't control how much goes in. Well, that's when you need to sit down with me as a financial coach, and we can control what goes out, and we can take what we have been given and we can manage well and steward well what we've been given so that we can then pay down debt and stop being in servitude to people who will take us for a ride the minute they can. I mean, I've seen some ridiculous interest rates. You miss one payment. Don't even talk about a furniture loan. We need to get out from under that bondage, and that includes those college loans, okay? So even though they have these programs are on the horizon and everybody's getting all excited, if you really, really just don't want to pay anything because you're expecting that your stuff is going to get forgiven, do it this way for me. Keep paying down debt, but just put it in a savings account. How's that? Can we make that kind of a compromise today? Can we make that kind of compromise instead of paying extra on your college loan? Because I'm figuring you've already tackled all your other debt before you got to that one, right? Right? But when you get to that one, if you really don't want to pay it off because you think the government's going to take care of it for you, just put it in another account. And if the government pays it off for you, yay! And if the government doesn't pay it off for you, please get in there and pay it off and wash that loan right out of your hair. All right. Get it out of your life. Let it be gone. All right. But don't depend on anybody but yourself. All right. Because that's the only person you can depend on when it comes to your money. All righty. I don't see any questions. I don't see anybody in the queue. I think we're going to call it a night tonight. I want to thank those of you who are on. If you're on free conference call, thank you for being on. I am thinking about switching free conference call over to Clubhouse. I tried it in the past, but it didn't really work for me. And I think one of the reasons it didn't work is I didn't have anybody to help me moderate while I was doing the interaction on the video. So if you're really, really good at Clubhouse and you want to serve and pour into my life, and I would love to see about collaborating with you to host these Thursday night lessons on Clubhouse, and you can help manage the people that come in. All right. So we can talk about that offline. I'm going to go ahead and close out for today. I want to thank you all for being here with me. Y'all take care and be blessed.
Love the podcast? Be sure to like, subscribe, and forward to 3 friends. You can ask a question or take a life-changing class at buildingwealthtogether.com. Now, go walk in abundance and leave a legacy.